Hi everybody and welcome back to another Music Theory for Beginners episode. In today's episode we'll dive into the circle of fifths and key signatures. By the end of the video you'll understand how key signatures work and how the circle of fifths helps us see the relations between different keys. The circle of fifths is a great tool not only for learning key signatures but also for composing music and transposing songs and chords. Let's take the tour. Right, so before we dive into the circle of fifths and key signatures, we need to talk about the concept of accidentals. Now, accidentals is like the collective name for things like sharps, flats, and naturals. And these are basically symbols to identify that we modify the pitch of a note. And the sharp raises a note by a half step, so if we have, say, a C, and we make it a sharp, it becomes a C sharp, so we raise the note by a semitone. And respectively, if we make a note flat, say we take an E and we make the E flat, we need to lower the pitch by a semitone, and it becomes an E flat. And then finally we have the naturals, which basically returns the note pitch to its original state and cancels any previous sharps or flats. And these accidentals can appear anywhere within a music piece to temporarily alter the pitch of a note, or the accidentals can appear in the key signatures in the beginning of a composition, indicating a consistent alteration of the note pitches throughout a piece. Speaking of key signatures that we see in the beginning of sheet music, if we have a key signature without any flats or sharps, we're probably in the key of C major or A minor, but we'll get into a minor later here in the episode. So as you probably know, in C major or A minor, we only have the white keys. And if we have a key signature with the two sharps, we're probably in the key of D major or B minor, depending on if it's a major or a minor song. And let's take a listen to D major, which contains two sharps. Okay, so to better understand how key signatures work, we should take a look at the circle of fifths. The circle of fifths is an amazing tool to understand how all these keys are related. So if we begin at the top of the circle of fifths, we have C major, without any sharps or flats. Then if we move clockwise one step, we get to G major, which has one sharp. And as we can see, one step on the circle of fifths brings us a fifth above the previous key. So if we begin with a C, the next one will be G major, which has one sharp. And if we continue on the circle of fifths, we get to D major with two sharps. So from G to D, which has two sharps. And so on, we add another sharp with each step here on the circle of fifths. Going the opposite direction, counterclockwise on the circle of fifths, the keys are a perfect fourth apart. So if we begin at the top again, at the C major key, without any sharps or flats, and we move counterclockwise one step, we go to F major, which has one flat, which is the B flat note. And if we continue from the F, we go to the B flat, which contains two flats, the B flat and the E flat. And as we continue counterclockwise on the circle of fifths, we add more flats to the key signature. Oh, and here's another cool thing. Every major key also has a relative minor key. If you look at the circle of fifths, we have an outside ring with the major keys, and then we have an inner circle with the relative minors. So for C major, we have the relative minor A minor, because both of them contain no sharps or no flats. C major, and A minor. And if we continue down the circle, we can see that, for example, D major has the relative minor key of B minor. So let's play D major and B minor. So it's the same amount of sharps in D and B minor. Okay, but how does the circle of fifths really help us in practice? Well, firstly, for defining key signatures and knowing how many flats and sharps are in a specific key. So if we know that the song is in F major, we know it's gonna be a B flat. And it can also help us smoothly modulate the song, as we know which keys are related to our current key signature. And finally, it's extremely valuable for composing and improvising, as we know what kind of chords go well together, depending on their relationship. Right, so we'll definitely come back to the circle of fifths when we start talking about function harmony and how to build scales and chords, and especially chord progressions and what kind of chords go well together. Hope you had a nice time today. See you in the next episode. My name is Matthias. Bye.